Are you wanting one of those snazzy 12-volt DC refrigerators to put in your car for camping instead of that tired old ice chest? Or maybe you just want one you can lug out in the backyard for keeping your drinks cold without fooling with ice. Well, stay tuned, because I'm going to tell you a few things that you really should know about having one. Hi, I'm Gary, and I make videos about technology subjects that interest me, and hopefully some of them will interest you too. As in my last video, some of you may ask, what's technical about a refrigerator? You plug it in and it works, doesn't it? Well, it may not be quite that simple, judging from the one I bought, and the fridge itself is probably not the biggest part of the problem. Now, you can find dozens of YouTube videos reviewing and testing these things. I've watched lots of them, and they can be helpful in deciding which one to buy, although they're always behind the curve because new models come out as fast as YouTube videos. But I don't buy things just to talk about them. I bought my fridge to use for car camping, plain and simple. It largely does what it claims it will, so this isn't a review of the fridge per se. Most of the limitations I ran into would apply to pretty much any model of 12-volt DC refrigerator. What I want to cover are the complications of using the thing, which the reviews generally won't tell you. Just so you know, my fridge is an Iceco model JP40, which means it's a sort of mid-size 40-liter model. Since you don't need to put ice in it, that's actually fairly big, because the rule of thumb for ice chests is that they should be 2/3 full of ice. Even the new super insulated ones need to be like half full of ice if you expect them to stay cold very long. Here's the thing. DC fridges away from home need to be powered from a 12-volt source. You can plug them into a power outlet in your car and they'll run just fine, until your battery runs down, which it will in a matter of hours if the engine isn't running. I wanted to do 1 or 2 night camping trips with mine without risking that, so I bought a small portable power station to power it. It's the Renogy Phoenix 300, which has now been discontinued, of course, and replaced by a pricier one. It has a 337 watt-hour lithium-ion battery, which on paper should run my fridge for maybe 8 to 10 hours. In reality, if I pre-cool the fridge and don't set it in the sun, it'll go for 12 hours or more in its so-called eco mode. It's unusual in that it can be charged simultaneously from the DC input and the USB-C port. So I also bought a 50-watt solar panel that I could mount on top of my car to keep it charged, and a 55-watt USB charger to charge it while driving. The fridge uses less than 50 watts, so I should be able to run it forever, right? Talk about optimism. That worked fine on a cross-country driving trip, but on my first real camping trip it was totally overcast on the second day, so no solar power, and I didn't want to move the car or just run the engine to keep the fridge going. Battery ran down, no more fridge. Oops. On to plan B. I bought a larger portable power station from Amazon, this one with a 600 watt-hour battery. That should run almost twice as long, and I could carry the old one for additional energy as well. Of course, it needed a bigger solar panel. But okay, problem solved. Something you should know about portable power stations is that the affordable ones, that cost less than a used car, are all Chinese-made, and they generally don't quite meet their specifications. Some by quite a bit. This one started out a little low and got lower, but the tech support guys in China were really responsive and nice, and they ultimately offered me a 40% discount to keep it. It was still much bigger than the old one, so I did. Then I set out to take it on an overnight camping trip to the north rim of the Grand Canyon, which was fabulous, by the way. I hope you'll forgive me for showing you a couple of shots of it. I plugged the power station in the night before. It charged up nicely. And then it shut off and never came on again. Dead as the proverbial doornail. The company was good about it. They refunded all my money, and I didn't even have to ship it back to them. Buying Chinese electronics online is always a gamble, in case you didn't know that. That turned out as well as could be expected. But I wasn't really tempted to buy another one of those. In fact, at this point, I was pretty much ready to throw in the towel, sell the fridge, and buy an ice chest. It would work okay for a couple of backcountry nights camping. But I procrastinated over the winter and did nothing. So now I'm planning another camping trip, and Amazon had a really good sale on a different small portable power station. It's only 288 watt-hours, but the old one and the new one together should be big enough. They don't take up much room, and together they weigh about a third as much as an ordinary lead-acid car battery. I bought it. Back in business. The new one has a 12-volt outlet just like the others, so I charged it up and plugged in the refrigerator to see how long it would run. The answer turned out to be 18 seconds. The fridge simply shut off time after time, and I thought there was something wrong with it. Nope, it's the power station. This turns out to be one of the lessons learned in dealing with these things. Be skeptical of ratings. The 12-volt outlet does indeed produce almost 12 volts with no load, but it drops to about 11.5 with the fridge running, even when it's fully charged. If you read the fine print in its manual, not the ad, you will see that it uses an 11-volt lithium-ion battery, and the output is obviously not regulated. Some of this was my own fault, because I had inadvertently switched the fridge low-voltage cutoff to the high setting. Why? Because it was dark, and the high setting is in the middle between medium and low. Figure that one out. But the end result is that the fridge shuts off prematurely regardless, because the power station output is much lower than normal. I perhaps should have anticipated that possibility, but how would a non-technical user be supposed to know that that really mattered? I sent this third unit back and replaced it with a different one, which means I'm now up to my fourth power station. It seems to work fine with the fridge, but it doesn't change the picture much in any event. This brings me to the real point of this video, which is two questions. First, how badly do you want a 12-volt refrigerator? I won't say need, because almost nobody really needs one. The second question is, how do you intend to use it? Those two questions define how many complications and how much hassle you're going to deal with for the privilege. If you're plugging it in for a backyard barbecue, it'll probably work fine, although you'll certainly never recover the cost in ice savings. But if you want to use it for camping, or overlanding, as backcountry car camping is so trendily called nowadays, you need to think long and hard about how you can keep it running. Unless you're driving your car for hours every day, you will need solar power for anything over a day or so. And even so, many portable power stations will require a full day of sun just to recharge without even running the fridge. The two I have only accept 50 to 60 watts of solar input, regardless of how big your solar panel is. You can, of course, buy a much bigger power station, which will power the fridge longer. That will cost you dearly. Most of them are roughly $1 per watt-hour, and they get heavy in a hurry. But it will also take even longer to recharge unless you get an even bigger, more unwieldy solar panel to do it as quickly as possible. I have two solar panels, the 50-watt Renogy one that goes on top of the car, and a really neat 100-watt folding one. I like them both. They both work fine. Now, that sort of makes sense for me because I can charge both my power stations at the same time with them. But would you really want to lug around something bigger than this? And don't even get me started on the bewildering array of various connector types and adapters that are involved in hooking this stuff together. I also haven't talked about cost up to this point, but you should know that I have over $1,200 invested in refrigerator, power stations, and solar panels. That doesn't count the ones I bought and got a refund for. Is it worth for camping 2 or 3 nights at a time? In hindsight, I don't think so, but you make your own judgment, depending on what you want to use it for. In any event, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'd be pleased if you left a like for it and are subscribed to the channel. Thank you for watching.